specifically in this session, I'm going to talk to me, and I'm going to let you listen. Now, I talk a lot about leadership. John Maxwell, I cite him a lot. He says that everything rises and falls on leadership, and I believe that's true. It's also true, however, that the vast majority of people that I interact with are not currently in leadership roles. They seek to be in a leadership role at some point, but they're not in a leadership role right now. So what I discover is that for most people that I work with, it's about developing these skills ourselves before we can possibly pass them on to another. Physician, heal thyself. What I ask me, and each of you can ask yourselves, but what I ask me is, am I making myself eligible for others to choose me as a leader? If I don't make myself eligible, then nothing can happen. And so I ask myself, do I take charge of myself? Am I specifically taking responsibility for me, because I can't look to someone else to do so if I seek to be a leader? Second, do I lead from the front? If I'm ever finding myself asking other people to do that which I am not willing to do, then that message will ring hollow. It won't catch hold. There will be no roots to it. And the same is true of you. Now that for me has been a little bit challenging over the course of the several years of my career, because the fact is that today I don't need to do a lot of recruiting for my income to be large. My business development is not in the exact same place as where most of you are. On the other hand, the very moment that I stop doing that which I would have you do, I think that I lose the platform. And so, over the course of the next couple of weeks, it's my objective to personally enroll 5 new people. Now, will it happen? Will it not? I don't know. But I have a personal objective. I have an objective to personally enroll 5 new folks in my Monavie business. So let's see what happens. My question for each of you is, do you have a similar objective? Are you leading from the front? Are you asking other people to do what you're not willing to do? Or are you, in fact, doing that which you would have others do? This next simple thought is that coercion and persuasion simply do not work. I actually was speaking to one of the people that I've worked with for some period of time. He's not a Monavie distributor, not in direct selling. Just yesterday, he was telling me that he was having trouble keeping his people motivated. And in his own words, he says, I feel like all I ever do is yell at these people. Well, coercion, yelling at people, that doesn't work, nor does persuasion work. The only thing in my life experience that's been shown to work predictably and consistently is example. If we do that, which we would have others do, then we have a really good chance that we can get the outcomes we're searching for. Next, I contemplate what I would want to have in another leader, someone that I was choosing to follow, and certainly he or she would have to keep their promises. And so then I get to ask myself, well, do I keep all of my promises? And with me, the truth is the truth, and it's good enough. Do I keep all of my promises? No. Do I keep most of them? Yes. Do I try to keep them? Yes. Am I consciously aware that if I make a promise, that's a sacred obligation? Yes. Am I perfect in that regard? No. I want to keep my promises always. And then I have to ask myself this question: do I in fact lead, or am I simply being led along by my own habits? Because I did it this way once, I will do it again. Because this is my pattern, I will continue on that pattern. Do I lead, or am I simply being led by habit? And I could ask each of you the same thing. Do you really lead, or are you simply being swept along by habit? And don't give it a rote, immediate, automatic answer. Stop and contemplate and consider. I stop and I contemplate and I consider. Do I lead, or am I simply being led along by habit? And then, once again, I'm speaking to me, and I'm letting you listen. Do I have a plan for personal development? Because here's a bit of truth. The truth is that my current results, some very, very good, and some not what I want, but my current results are a direct result of my current state of personal evolution and development. If I want an improved outcome, I must become an improved person. I am not going to get an improved outcome by being the same person doing the same thing. That's the truth. If I want my outcome to improve, I must improve. And I must improve in advance of any meaningful improvement in outcome. If I don't have a specific, tangible action plan for personal development, then by definition, I am simply being swept along by the waves of life. And here's what I believe. The waves of life will seldom come to shore where I want to be. They won't. If I just allow myself to get swept along by the waves of life, very, very, very rarely will those waves of life come to shore where I want to be. And so I have to have a specific, tangible personal development plan. If I do not have a specific, tangible personal development plan, then that is the same as planning not to plan and accepting whatever the happenstance outcome is. Now, I'm back. Jeremy? Don't know what happened. I had to reconnect. Am I doing good again? We got sound back? Hello, hello? We good? Okay. Sorry about that. And so I don't know exactly where I clicked off, but my question for myself, and I'll let you listen, is do I have a plan for personal development, or am I simply being swept along by the waves of life? If I'm allowing myself simply to be swept along by the waves of life, there is very little likelihood that those waves will arrive at the shore where I want to arrive. And the same is true for you. Now, here are questions that I ask myself. Says there are a group of qualities that I would respect in a leader. If there's someone that I'm going to align myself with, someone I'm going to do business with, someone I'm going to invite into my personal life, someone who is going to have any real influence in my life, then there are certain qualities that I would look to and that I would respect. Since these are qualities that I would anticipate having available in other people, then I get to ask myself, how am I doing on those qualities? And so here are a few of them. Number one is honesty. What I really want is to be in association with people who are completely, totally, and absolutely rigorously honest. And so then I get to ask myself, well, how am I doing in that respect? How is that working for me? And this is what I've discovered, that there's a scale, and the scale goes like this. If 10 is the highest level of honesty that I have ever in my life obtained, if I am at 9 and I'm moving forward, then I will be happy and I will have the trust and respect of others in my life. If 10 is the highest level of personal honesty and integrity that I've ever had in my life, if I am, for whatever reason, backpedaling and I'm heading back towards 9, I will not have the trust and respect of people in my life. Here's what I further discovered, that as it relates at least to honesty, I don't believe that there's ever such a thing as absolutely arriving. There's a wall that we reach. There's a wall that we reach and have to break through at each next level of personal honesty. Complete, absolute, total, rigorous honesty. Complete, absolute transparency. This is a goal. It's not something that I believe most of us will ever reach in our life. But here's what I get to ask myself, how am I doing in respect to what I would ask of another? And what I can say is that, am I perfect? No. But am I operating at the highest level ever in my life in this particular respect? Yes. And trying to break through to a new one. And so I'm pretty happy with that particular position. Can it get better? Yes. Here's the next one. Direct and open communication ability and skill. What I seek from leadership are people who can point out to me my faults and failings and do it in such a way that it provokes me to get better. If a person points out my faults and failings and does it in a way that I perceive as being belittling or demeaning, if they're doing it in a way that is attacking or that is caustic, that even though it may be accurate communication, it will not provoke something better out of me. What I seek is association with leadership who have an ability to have direct and open communication and the grace to cause that open communication to cause me to want to become better. And so then I get to ask myself, how am I doing with direct and open communication? Am I always consciously aware that that communication could have either a positive or negative impact on the one with whom I communicate? It could cause them to strive to get better, or it could cause a pushback and cause them to get worse. Direct and open communication ability and skill. Now, for those of you who don't yet find yourself in big positions of leadership, this is not so much about leading others as it is right now for me about self-evaluation, self-analysis. Can I get better? Can I improve? The answer is yes, I can always improve. This next one, an ability to acknowledge error. Man, is it hard for me to be in association with someone who always has to be right in every situation, and when wrong, cannot acknowledge that error. And so I get to ask myself, how am I doing? What is my own ability to acknowledge error? I had an experience just yesterday. I was so completely self-absorbed, and I don't want to be, but I was so completely self-absorbed in driving my car and was going shopping. And I pulled into a parking lot and did not even realize that I made a left-hand turn in front of another car, a truck actually, pickup truck that was going to pull into a parking space. So he's coming this way and apparently was waiting to pull into the parking space. I was completely oblivious to it. I came this way and pulled in front of him into the parking space. Didn't know that I made the error. I was not aware of it. I didn't even know it happened. But when I opened my car door, there he was. He was upset. He was upset that I had to, and he said, "Hey, buddy, what's wrong with you? You always turn left in front of other people who are waiting for a parking spot." He was angry. Now, that could have been handled a variety of ways, most of which would have led to escalation. I am happy to say that my own current state of development was such that I was able to easily acknowledge the error. I said, "Gosh, I really apologize. I apologize. I didn't intend to do that." I held out my hand and I shook his. An ability to acknowledge error is something I want in others that I'll be in association with, and it's something that I need in myself if I seek to be more happy more of the time and have my relationships get increasingly positive. Now, that was one instance. Am I always able to acknowledge error? No, it depends on the nature of the error, always. Or ego and pride and all that stuff getting involved. But a quality that I would seek in a leader is an ability to acknowledge error with grace. Now, later on, only a few minutes later, I was in a store and I saw that same person and he smiled at me and he thanked me for the way that I acknowledged the error and I apologized. And that is a leadership quality. Next, you notice I put some stars that are asterisked by it. If I'm going to associate myself with a leader, what do I want? I want someone who has certainty in direction. My gosh, I couldn't follow somebody who doesn't know where they're going, right? I wouldn't expect someone to follow me if I don't know where I'm going. So I need certainty in direction, but here is where the wisdom and the grace is required with knowledge of the possibility that course management will be called for. What I want is to be certain in direction, but to also have the common sense, this little measure of humility that says certainty in direction, but a knowledge, not just an anticipation, a knowledge that there will have to be course corrections, that perhaps I'm going one direction is going to have to change. A certainty in direction does not equate to stubbornness and an unwillingness to admit that that direction is not producing the desired outcome. Certainty in direction with a knowledge of the possibility that course management or changing in course will be called for. Notice I didn't say might be, will be called for. Well, since I want that in others, I get to measure myself. How am I doing in that respect? Perfect? No. The best ever in my life? Yes. An ability to inspire me or to inspire others. And the kind of inspiration that I refer to here is not of a spiritual nature, of a religious nature. It's to cause me to want to get better in all aspects of my life, and specifically in the area of business where I've sought out that leader, or in my personal life, whatever it is. In the direct selling industry, three remarkable leaders that come to mind. Mark Hughes was the first. He has left an incredible imprint on this entire industry. Mark Hughes is a leader who is able to inspire others to want to do more and to believe that they could do that which they did not believe they could before they were in contact with Mark. And unfortunately, that ability to inspire others didn't make him perfect. It didn't eliminate all of his faults and flaws and failings. And then Mark succumbed to a drug and alcohol overdose a number of years ago. That doesn't change the fact that he was one of the most gifted people I have ever seen in his ability to inspire me or others to see and believe that which they could not see and believe. Dallin Larson, Monavie, went through one of the most dramatic seasons of growth ever in the history of our industry. Dallin was the visionary behind that growth, and admittedly, things have changed. Dallin no longer has that role in Monavie. Who knows? Maybe he will again one day. But there was a season in time when Dallin was, without question, the most powerful voice in this industry. Ron Williams today is an executive in another direct selling company, and he is a very, very powerful voice. He has the ability to inspire other people to see what they otherwise could not see in their own abilities. Vision. Man, it's hard to quantify, isn't it? It's hard to quantify. Vision. An ability to see and to imagine in a positive way the future. And when I say to see the future, not to see that which is going to occur anyway, but to see that which we can cause to occur, which will produce positive outcome in our lives and the lives of other people. I think the only way for me to exhibit vision is for me to so live my life so that I've got this sense of peace and ease and comfort that makes me open to whatever the universe has in store. If I've got conflict in my life, conflict in my relationships, if I'm laboring under financial pressure, if everything around me is a fight and is a conflict, the ability for me to see and to imagine things that I and that you and that we can do together to cause the outcome to be different than might otherwise be, that vision becomes blurred. And so what I get to ask myself is, okay, what is there in my life that I can cause to have less stress? We don't need to live our lives in the stressful way that we do. Most financial pressure is self-imposed. We make financial choices we shouldn't make. Most relationship pressure is at least to some degree self-imposed. Most inability to get everything done that we're trying to get done in a day, this hurry. The vast majority of that is self-imposed. What I need to do is have the clarity to eliminate from my life any self-imposed turmoil, because to the extent that I'm in turmoil is extraordinarily unlikely that I will be able to imagine into the future those things that I can impact to cause change, and that's vision. If I'm in a state of turmoil, that's not too likely to happen. If you're in a state of turmoil, that's not too likely to happen. And so it is about things that we do to change the way that we experience life so that we can be more happy more of the time. Now, I contemplate what real leadership is. Real leadership is, in my view, counterintuitive. The more common expressions of leadership are those where the person in the position of leadership jealously clings to it and doesn't want anyone else to have that same leadership position or capacity. Real leadership, in my estimation, is evidenced by these two people. Jonathan, as he paved the way for and yielded to the leadership of David. It's a great Old Testament story, which was, in my view, a type or a precursor of, it was a foreshadowing of John the Baptist. Jonathan saw that David had leadership skills and capacities that he could never have, and he paved the way for David and stepped aside for David, the greatest king in the history of Israel. And then John the Baptist said, there is another coming, and he said, I must become less so that the other one can become more. Now, in our industry of direct selling, these are the two perfect examples of true leadership. It's when we have completely transferred the baton of knowledge and leadership to another, or if we didn't have it in our possession to transfer, we simply paved the way to allow another to seize that baton, and we gradually became willing through humility and knowledge to step aside and let someone else become that leader. The greatest evidence of success in our business is if we're not working, nobody knows that someone else has received that baton of knowledge and leadership. Those are the great examples. I would encourage you both to read those stories. Read the story of how Jonathan paved the way for David to be the leader and how he, with grace, stepped aside. Read how John the Baptist paved the way for Jesus to become the leader and stepped aside. Didn't jealously cling to that leadership position, but instead, in a counterintuitive way, pulled back to allow another to emerge. Well, and I think of my current life experience, and I contemplate. People ask me, Randy, if you could live anywhere you want, where would it be? And I said, well, I can, and I do. It would be spending some time on the beach. It would be spending some time inside the gates of this gated community where I live. I watched a movie the other night, and it was a story of a mother. One of the subplots was a mother who was very, very, very angry because her son had died in a military conflict, and she was very angry and bitter. And she was angry and bitter because another person's son who had a very, very serious illness had not died. And so she had this anger and this resentment towards God. We have to remember that our field of vision is very, very limited. This is what I know, that God is perfect. And since God is perfect, the love that he has for each of us is perfect. He doesn't love the son who survived the illness more than he loves the son who died from the combat. He loves them the same. He loves them both perfectly. What we don't see is that vision. It is opaque. Our view is opaque. His view is not opaque. It's through all. I don't believe that God loves any of us differently. Now, we're all going to have different expressions of success. When I look at my own expressions of success, they are beyond my most wild imaginations. Since I've had successes beyond my most wild imaginations, and since I know that you occupy the exact same kind of love in God's eyes as I do, then I know you can have successes beyond your own most wild imaginations. Now, there might be evidence in financial success, there might be evidence in relationship success, there might be evidence in some other kind of success, because we all have different ways of experiencing it. But this is what I don't just think, this is what I know. I know you can have far, far more of all the good things that life has to offer than you currently have. You can have much, much, much more. How can you have much more? I believe that we can all have more by first identifying what are true leaders and then becoming the best followers ever. In my estimation, every great leader was first a great follower. All great leaders that I know remain great followers of someone. Having identified great leadership, we can then do our best to get exactly in lockstep. And we can, while getting in lockstep, we can remember that unless the leader we choose to follow is deity, that they're human, they'll have failings, and we don't let that discourage us when those failings in others come along. And then I can look at all the qualities of leadership, and I can ask myself, and how am I doing? That which is measured can be improved, but it can be improved. Notice I didn't say it would be improved just by measuring. It can be improved by engaging ourselves aggressively in the process that is likely to cause that personal development and growth to occur. It will not happen by happenstance. It will happen only on purpose, intentional. And so Marissa just sent me a text saying, asking me if there was a title for this session. And I would say yes. The title is, do you have a plan? Do you have a plan? Because if you don't have a plan, the outcome's not likely to be so great. At any rate, my time is spent. I can't wait to see you. I will be shortly in Portugal and then in Germany, hoping I get to see some of you on those various visits. Perhaps a couple of you are going to come into one of these 2 boot camps that are coming up shortly. That'd be fun for me too. So anyway, Vanya Kess, I'm telling you I think you're great, and that I have an absolute certainty that life has more in store for you than you did experience. Make yourself eligible for success. That is the key. We must make ourselves eligible for success. And then great things can happen. So God bless y'all. Bye-bye.